The Unity Gala was the biggest event of the year on Ethon 7. Diplomats from 30 different species gathered in the Grand Hall. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Music played softly in the background. Servants moved between guests, offering drinks and food from 100 different worlds. Marcus Cole stood at the back entrance. He wore the simple gray uniform of a contract security guard. His job was easy. Watch the door. Check badges. Stay invisible. Nobody important ever noticed him, and that was fine. He was just a human, after all. In a galaxy filled with telepaths, shapeshifters, and beings made of pure energy, humans were considered quite ordinary. Marcus had worked on Ethon 7 for 3 years now. The pay was decent. The work was boring. But he liked watching the aliens. He found them fascinating. The way they moved. The way they talked. The small details that most people missed. Tonight, his eyes kept returning to Ambassador Valith Serena. She was beautiful in a way that was hard to describe. Her body was made of living crystal. Light passed through her and came out as rainbows. When she moved, it was like watching water flow. Smooth. Perfect. Her species, the crystalline hegemony, were known throughout the galaxy for their grace. They never stumbled. They never fell. Their bodies were works of art. Ambassador Serena stood at the center of the hall. Important people surrounded her. She was speaking about trade agreements and peace treaties. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. Marcus could not hear the words from his position, but he watched her face. She looked worried about something. Her movements seemed slightly faster than usual. More tense. Marcus noticed these things because noticing things was what humans did. Back on Earth, his ancestors had survived by paying attention. A broken twig might mean a predator nearby. A strange look from a neighbor might mean danger. Humans had no claws. No fangs. No special powers. They survived by watching and thinking. The gala continued. Hours passed. Marcus checked badges and watched the crowd. Everything seemed normal. Then happened. Ambassador Serena was in the middle of a sentence. She was talking to the Volanti delegation when she stopped. Not slowly. Not naturally. She just stopped. Her body went completely still for a moment. Maybe a second. Maybe less. Then she fell. Her crystalline body hit the marble floor with a terrible sound. Like glass breaking. Like ice cracking. Pieces of her scattered across the polished stone. The rainbow light faded from her form. The hall went silent. 1,000 beings held their breath. Then chaos erupted. People screamed. Guards rushed forward. Medics pushed through the crowd. Marcus watched from his post at the back. His heart was beating fast, but his eyes never stopped moving. He looked at faces. He looked at positions. He noticed who moved first and who stayed still. The Volanti chief investigator arrived within minutes. His name was Keth Voren. He was tall, with a body like an insect. 4 arms, compound eyes. A clicking voice that sounded mechanical. The Volanti were known as the best investigators in the galaxy. Their brains could process information faster than any computer. Keth Voren examined the scene. He scanned the body with his equipment. He spoke to witnesses. Within an hour, he made his announcement. A tragic accident, he declared. A rare flaw in her crystalline matrix. Internal failure. Natural causes. The ambassador's death is a great loss, but there is no crime here. The crowd accepted his words. The Volanti were experts, after all. If they said it was natural, then it was natural. Case closed. But Marcus could not stop thinking about that moment. That second when Ambassador Serena had frozen. He had seen many things in his life. He had watched people die before. He knew what accidents looked like. He knew what natural death looked like. This did not look natural. He tried to ignore the feeling. He was just a guard. He was just a human. The Volanthi were the smartest investigators in known space. Who was he to question them? But the feeling would not go away. After his shift ended, Marcus went to the security office. He had access to the camera footage. Part of his job was monitoring feeds. He pulled up the recording from the gala and watched the moment again. There it was. Ambassador Serena speaking. Then the freeze. Exactly 1.3 seconds of complete stillness. Then the fall. Marcus watched it 20 times. 30 times. 50 times. Her species did not freeze like that. Nothing in their biology explained it. When crystalline beings died from natural causes, they faded slowly. Their light dimmed over minutes or hours. They did not stop like machines that had been switched off. Someone had done something to her. Marcus was sure of it. He looked at the other cameras. He watched the crowd. He noticed small things. A servant who was in the wrong position. A diplomat who looked away at exactly the right moment. A tiny device on a table that had not been there before the speech started. These details meant nothing on their own. But together, they formed a picture. A picture of a carefully planned murder. Marcus sat back in his chair. He rubbed his eyes. It was late. He was tired. And he was probably wrong. He was probably seeing patterns that did not exist. Humans did that sometimes. They saw faces in clouds and monsters in shadows. Maybe this was the same thing. But maybe it was not. He copied the footage to his personal device. Then he went to his small room in the station's worker section. He lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. Ambassador Serena had been about to say something important. He had seen the look on her face before she died. She had been worried. She had been scared. She'd been building up to something. What had she known? What had she been about to reveal? Marcus closed his eyes. He would ask questions tomorrow. He would dig deeper. He would probably find nothing. The Volanthi were probably right, but his gut told him otherwise. And humans had learned to trust their guts a long time ago. That instinct had kept them alive through ice ages and wars and plagues. It had brought them from caves to stars. Tomorrow, he would start looking. Tomorrow, he would find the truth. He just hoped the truth would not find him first. The next morning, Marcus began his investigation. He did not call it that, of course. He was just a guard. Guards did not investigate. They watched doors and checked badges. But nobody paid attention to what a human guard did in his free time. That was his advantage. He started with the servants. The beings who cleaned the floors and served the drinks and fixed the machines. They were invisible too, just like him. But invisible people saw everything. He found a Moradi cleaner named Yul in the maintenance corridor. The Moradi were small creatures with gray skin and large dark eyes. They came from a cold moon in a distant system. Most species ignored them. Marcus bought Yul a cup of hot tea. It was not expensive, but the gesture mattered. Nobody bought things for cleaners. The gala was terrible, Marcus said. I was working the back door. Saw the whole thing. Yul wrapped both hands around the warm cup. Yes, very sad. The ambassador was kind to us. She always said thank you when we cleaned. Not many do that, I imagine. No, not many. Marcus nodded slowly. He let the silence stretch. Humans were good at silence. Most aliens felt the need to fill it with words. Yul spoke again. I noticed something strange that night. Before the fall, what did you notice? A Volanthi. He was near the ambassador's table. He was holding something small. A device. I thought it was a communication tool. But he was pointing it at her. Just for a second. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. But he kept his face calm. Which Volanthi? Do you remember what he looked like? They all looked the same to me, Yul admitted. but he had a scar on his third arm, left side, from shoulder to elbow. Marcus thanked Yul and bought him another tea. Then he went to the security office and pulled up the footage again. He zoomed in on the Volante delegation. There were 7 of them at the gala. He examined each one carefully. The 5th one had a scar on his third arm, left side, from shoulder to elbow. His name was Vex Khan. He was a junior member of Chief Investigator Kethvoran's team, the same team that had declared the death and accident within 1 hour. Marcus felt cold. This was bigger than he had thought. He spent the next 2 days gathering more information. He talked to more servants. He reviewed guest lists. He cross-referenced arrival and departure times. He looked at financial records that were supposed to be private. Humans were not supposed to know how to access such things. But Marcus had learned many skills during his years in space. Skills that were not on his official record. The picture became clearer with each piece of information. Ambassador Sirena had been investigating a smuggling operation. Someone was moving illegal weapons through the Ethon sector. The weapons were made from forbidden technology. They could destroy ships. They could kill populations. They were worth billions on the black market. The ambassador had gathered evidence. She had been planning to reveal everything at the gala. Her speech was supposed to expose the criminals and end the operation forever. But someone had stopped her. Marcus looked at the evidence again. The smuggling routes passed through Volante space. The shipments were hidden in Volante cargo vessels. And the money trail led to accounts controlled by members of the Volante delegation. Chief Investigator Kethvoran's name appeared on 3 of those accounts. The being who had declared the death and accident was involved in the crime. He had made the evidence disappear. He had closed the case before anyone could ask questions. And now he was preparing to leave the station and return to Volante space, where no one could touch him. Marcus needed help. He could not handle this alone. He was just a guard. He had no authority. He had no power. He needed to give this information to someone who could act on it. He went to the station commander's office. Commander Zhao was a Thorian, a species of tall beings with blue skin and 3 eyes. They were known for their fairness and honor. "I need to speak with you," Marcus said to the commander's secretary. "It is about Ambassador Serena's death." The secretary looked at him with surprise. "The case is closed. Investigator Kethvoran ruled it natural causes. I have evidence that says otherwise." The secretary hesitated. Then she spoke into her communication device. A moment later, she nodded. "The commander will see you." Marcus entered the office. Commander Zhale sat behind a large desk. Her 3 eyes studied him with curiosity. "A human guard with evidence," she said. Her voice was deep and slow. "This is unusual. The Volante are the finest investigators in the galaxy. Do you claim to know something they missed?" "I claim to know something they hid," Marcus replied. The commander's eyes widened slightly. "That is a serious accusation. I have serious evidence." Marcus presented everything. The footage, the witness statements, the financial records, the smuggling routes, the connection to Kethvoran and his team. He spoke for 30 minutes without stopping. He laid out each piece like a puzzle until the full picture was clear. When he finished, Commander Zhale was silent for a long time. Her 3 eyes moved slowly, processing the information. "If this is true," she said finally, "then we have a major diplomatic incident. The Volante Concordat will not accept accusations against one of their investigators. They will demand proof beyond any doubt. They will say that a human guard is not qualified to challenge their findings. Is the evidence not enough? The evidence is compelling. But politics is not about evidence. It is about power. The Volante have power. You do not." Marcus felt frustration rising in his chest. He had expected this, but it still hurt. So we do nothing? We let murderers go free because they have the right friends? Commander Zhao leaned forward. I did not say that. I said the path will be difficult. I need to think about this carefully. Give me 1 day. Return tomorrow, and I will tell you what we can do. Marcus nodded. It was not the answer he wanted, but it was better than nothing. He returned to his room and waited. He tried to sleep, but could not. His mind kept racing. He had trusted the commander with everything. Had that been smart? Or had he just put a target on his own back? He would know tomorrow. Tomorrow felt very far away. Marcus did not sleep well that night. Dreams came and went. In one dream, he was falling like the ambassador. In another, he was running through endless corridors while clicking sounds followed him. He woke up early and took a shower. The water was cold. Budget rooms did not get hot water until midday. He dressed in his uniform and ate a small breakfast of protein bars and recycled coffee. Then he went back to work. His shift was at a cargo entrance on the lower levels. It was even more boring than the main gate. Only service workers and delivery robots passed through. Marcus checked their badges without thinking. His mind was on the meeting with Commander ZHL. Around midday, his communication device buzzed. A message from the commander's office. Meeting cancelled. The matter has been resolved. No further action required. Marcus read the message 3 times. His stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He tried to contact the commander's office, but no one answered. He went there in person during his break, but the secretary told him the commander was in private meetings all day. She would not look him in the eyes. Marcus walked back to his station slowly. He was not a fool. He knew what this meant. Someone had gotten to the commander. Someone with power. Someone who wanted the case to stay closed. The Volanthi. But Marcus had not survived 35 years of life by giving up easily. Humans were stubborn creatures. They did not know when to quit. It was one of their greatest weaknesses. It was also one of their greatest strengths. He needed to find more evidence. Something so clear that no one could ignore it. Something that would make politics irrelevant. After his shift, he returned to the Grand Hall. The gala decorations were gone now. Workers were cleaning the floors and preparing for the next event. But Marcus was not interested in the center of the room. He was interested in the edges. He walked along the walls, looking at everything. Tables, chairs, decorative items. Most of it had been moved or replaced since the night of the murder. But some things remained. Near the east wall, he found a large vase filled with artificial flowers. It was expensive looking, made from some kind of metal that changed color in the light. Probably worth more than a year of his salary. Marcus remembered this vase from the footage. It had been near Ambassador Sirena when she fell, and someone had placed something on the table beside it. Something small. Something that had disappeared after the fall. He looked around. The cleaning crew was busy on the other side of the hall. No one was watching him. He reached into the vase and felt around the bottom. His fingers touched something cold and hard. He pulled it out carefully. It was a device. Small enough to fit in his palm. Made from dark metal with no markings. It had a single button on one side and a lens on the other. A lens that could be pointed at someone across the room. Marcus knew what this was. He had seen similar devices during his time on Earth. Frequency disruptors. They sent out invisible waves that could damage electronics. Or, if tuned correctly, they could damage living things. This one was tuned for crystalline biology. Tuned to make a body freeze for exactly long enough to cause fatal damage. Then it would look like natural failure. Like an accident. The perfect murder weapon. Marcus put the device in his pocket. His hands were shaking. This was the proof he needed. Physical evidence that could not be denied or explained away. But he knew he could not take it to Commander Jail again. That path was closed. He needed another way. He thought about his options as he walked back to his room. He could contact the Crystalline Hegemony directly. They would want justice for their ambassador. But that would take time. Weeks, maybe months, for messages to travel across space. By then, Keth Voren and his team would be long gone. He could leak the information to the news networks. But the Volanthi had influence over most major media. They could bury the story before it spread. He needed to think like a human. Like someone who expected the worst and planned for it. His ancestors had lived in a world full of predators. They had survived by being careful, by being prepared, and by never trusting anyone completely. Those instincts had been passed down through thousands of generations. They were written in his blood. Marcus sat at his small desk and began making copies of everything. The footage, the financial records, the witness statements, the device itself, which he photographed from every angle. He encrypted the files and sent them to 3 different places. First, to Earth's diplomatic corps on the other side of the station. Second, to an independent journalist network that operated outside Volanthi influence. Third, to the Crystalline Hegemony's emergency contact channel. Then he made physical copies on data chips. He hid one chip in his room, behind the wall panel. He hid another in a locker at the cargo entrance where he worked. He gave a third to Yol, the Marathi cleaner, with instructions to release it if anything happened to him. Finally, he wrote a detailed report explaining everything. He named names. He laid out the evidence. He connected every piece to form a clear picture of what had happened and who was responsible. It took him all night. By the time he finished, the station's artificial sun was beginning its morning cycle. His eyes burned and his head ached. But he felt something close to satisfaction. He had done what humans always did. He had prepared for betrayal. He had planned for the worst. Whatever happened next, the truth was protected. It would come out eventually, even if he was not there to see it. Marcus looked at the device on his desk. Such a small thing. Such terrible power. Someone had built this to kill. Someone had planned and executed a murder in front of 1,000 witnesses. And they had almost gotten away with it. He put the device in a secure container and locked it. Then he lay down on his bed for a few hours of sleep. Tomorrow, he would take the next step. Tomorrow, he would force the truth into the light. But first, he needed to rest. The hardest part was still ahead. They came for him the next evening. Marcus was eating dinner in the workers' cafeteria when 4 station security officers walked in. They were not humans. 2 Volanthi. 2 Thorians. All wearing full combat gear. All carrying weapons. The cafeteria went quiet. Everyone turned to look. Marcus set down his fork and waited. Marcus Cole, the lead officer said, "You are under arrest for crimes against interspecies relations. You will come with us now." Marcus did not run. He did not fight. There was no point. He had known this might happen. That was why he had prepared. "Can I ask what specific crimes?" He said calmly. "Theft of classified documents. Unauthorized access to secure systems. Spreading dangerous misinformation. Attempting to damage the relationship between the Galactic Council and the Volanthi Concordat." Marcus almost laughed. They were accusing him of everything except the truth. They were making him the criminal instead of the victim. He stood up and put his hands where they could see them. "I will come peacefully." They put restraints on his wrists. Energy bands that locked his hands behind his back. Then they marched him through the station. Workers stopped to stare. Guards whispered to each other. A human being arrested by station security was unusual. Humans usually kept to themselves and avoided trouble. They took him to the detention level, a place he had never been before. Cold metal walls, flickering lights, cells with energy barriers instead of doors. The air smelled like recycled atmosphere and fear. His cell was small. A bed, a toilet, nothing else. The energy barrier hummed softly, reminding him that escape was impossible. A few hours later, Chief Investigator Keth Voren came to visit. The insectoid stood on the other side of the barrier. His compound eyes reflected the light in strange patterns. His forearms hung at his sides. His clicking voice filled the small space. "Human," Keth Voren said, "you have caused much trouble." Marcus sat on the bed and looked at him. "I found the truth. That is all." "You found nothing. You created lies to damage the reputation of the Volante Concordat. You stole documents that do not belong to you. You spread false information to foreign governments. I found the weapon you used to kill Ambassador Serena." Keth Voren made a sound that might have been laughter. "There is no weapon. Your so-called evidence has already been examined by experts. It is a harmless communication device. Nothing more." Marcus felt cold. They had found his hiding spots. They had replaced the evidence with fake items. They were thorough. He had expected that. "The copies I sent to Earth and the hegemony will tell a different story," he said. "Those transmissions never arrived. Technical problems. Very unfortunate. They had intercepted everything." Of course, they had. The Volante controlled communications on the station. They could block any message they wanted. But Marcus had planned for this too. "You think you have won," Marcus said. "You think you have covered everything. But you do not understand humans." Keth Voren leaned closer to the barrier. "I understand humans perfectly. You are a weak species. No special abilities. No natural weapons. You survive only because other species allow you to. And now you have made powerful enemies. No one will help you." "We are weak," Marcus agreed. "We have always been weak. That is why we learned to plan for the worst. That is why we never put all our hope in one place." He smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I gave copies to someone you cannot control. Someone you cannot find. Someone who will release everything if I do not contact them every 12 hours. And the deadline has already passed." Keth Voren went still. His clicking stopped. "You are lying." "Am I?" "Check your communications. Check the independent networks. Check the hegemony channels. The truth is already spreading. You can kill me. You can destroy every piece of evidence on this station. But you cannot stop what has already been sent." Marcus had given the third copy to Yul, the Marathi cleaner. Yul had contacts on other stations. Contacts in the independent networks. Contacts that the Volante did not even know existed. The information was moving through secret channels, jumping from system to system, impossible to trace or stop. Keth Voren turned and walked away without another word. His clicking footsteps echoed down the corridor. Marcus lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was calm. He had done everything he could. Now he could only wait. The hours passed slowly. He slept a little. He exercised a little. He thought about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests, about the small town where he had grown up, about his mother, who had died before he left the planet. She would have been proud of him, he thought. She had always told him to do the right thing, no matter the cost. The next morning, things changed. A different officer came to his cell. A human. She wore the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her name tag said Lieutenant Chun. "Marcus Cole," she said. "You have been busy. Is the information out?" "It is out. It is everywhere. The crystalline hegemony received it first. They are demanding an independent investigation. Earth's government is supporting them. 3 other species have joined the call. The Galactic Council has no choice but to respond. Marcus sat up. What about Kethvorin? He tried to leave the station an hour ago. His ship was stopped at the departure gate. He and his team are being held for questioning. She smiled slightly. The evidence you gathered is quite convincing. The weapon, in particular. The real one, not the fake they planted. How did you get the real one? Your friend Yul had it. You gave him more than just data chips, it seems. Marcus remembered. He had given Yul the original device along with the data. Insurance in case they searched his room. He had not mentioned it to anyone. He had not trusted anyone with that information. His paranoia had saved him. Lieutenant Chun touched a panel beside the cell. The energy barrier flickered and disappeared. You are free to go. The station commander wants to see you. There is much to discuss. Marcus stood up. His legs were shaky from the hours in the cell, but his spirit was strong. Thank you, he said. Thank yourself. You did something that most people would consider impossible. You out-hot beings who were supposed to be smarter than you. Marcus walked toward the exit. I did not outthink them. I just prepared better. Humans have had a lot of practice with that. Lieutenant Chun nodded. Yes, we have. They walked out of the detention level together. Ahead, Marcus could see daylight. Artificial daylight from the station's sun panels, but still bright and warm. The truth was out. Justice was coming, but Marcus knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Marcus watched from the gallery as the evidence was presented. The footage, the financial records, the weapon. Witness after witness told their stories. Yul the cleaner, other servants, even Commander Jail, who admitted that she had been pressured to ignore Marcus's findings. Kethvorin and 4 members of his team sat in the accused section. Their compound eyes showed no emotion, but Marcus could see the tension in their bodies, the way their arms twitched, the way their clicking had become irregular. They knew they had lost. The judges were from 7 different species. None of them were Volanthi. The Concordat had protested this decision, but the Galactic Council had insisted. Too much was at stake. The truth had to be found by neutral eyes. On the final day, the chief judge stood and read the verdict. Kethvorin of the Volanthi Concordat. You are found guilty of murder, guilty of conspiracy, guilty of corruption of justice, guilty of weapons smuggling. You will be sentenced to permanent confinement on the prison planet Vorax. Similar sentences followed for the others. Life in prison on a world with no escape. No communication with the outside galaxy. No hope of return. Kethvorin looked at Marcus as the guards led him away. Those compound eyes held pure hatred, pure disbelief. How could a human have done this? How could such a primitive creature have destroyed everything? Marcus met his gaze without flinching. He did not feel triumph. He did not feel joy. He felt only a deep, tired satisfaction. Justice had been done. That was enough. After the trial, the crystalline hegemony held a ceremony. They wanted to honor Marcus for his service to their people. He tried to refuse. He was not comfortable with the tension, but they insisted. The ceremony was held in the same grand hall where Ambassador Serena had died. This time, it was filled with beings of crystal. Hundreds of them. Their bodies caught the light and filled the room with rainbows. It was beautiful and strange and a little overwhelming. Marcus stood on a small platform. He wore his best clothes, which were not very good. A simple suit that he had bought years ago for a friend's wedding. He felt out of place among all this elegant stuff. The new crystalline ambassador approached him. Her name was Talsyra. She was younger than Serena had been. Her light was brighter, more blue than gold. But she moved with the same grace, the same fluid perfection. Marcus Cole of Earth, she said. Her voice was softer than Serena's had been, like distant bells instead of close chimes. You have done a great service to the hegemony. You found justice when everyone else looked away. You spoke truth when everyone else accepted lies. How can we repay such a gift? Marcus shook his head. I do not need payment. I did what was right. That is all. Taelsira studied him with her transparent eyes. Your species has no gifts, she said slowly. No telepathy. No special senses. No abilities that set you apart. Every other species in the galaxy has something that makes them unique. But humans have nothing. How did you see what our finest minds could not? How did you solve what our best investigators declared unsolvable? It was a good question. Marcus had thought about it many times since the trial began. He had asked himself the same thing. How had he done it? He was nobody special. Just a guard from a small town on an ordinary planet. But maybe that was the answer. We have spent our whole existence being the weakest thing in the room, he said. Outrun by predators. Outlived by diseases. Outmatched by nature. Everything on our planet was stronger or faster or tougher than us. We should have died out millions of years ago. He paused. The hall was silent. Every crystalline being was watching him. But we did not die. We survived. We learned to watch, to notice, to think ahead. We learned that the universe was always trying to kill us, so we had to be ready for anything. We developed suspicion because trusting too easily meant death. We developed preparation because being unprepared meant extinction. He looked around the room, at all these beautiful, powerful beings who had underestimated him. You see a universe of wonders. You see beauty and cooperation and progress. And those things are real. But humans see something else too. We see a universe that is dangerous. A universe where bad things happen if you are not careful. We see threats that others miss because we have been trained by millions of years of survival to always expect the worst. Taelsira was quiet for a long moment. Then she inclined her head. Among her people, this was a gesture of deep respect. The highest honor they could give. Perhaps, she said softly, that is gift enough. The ceremony continued. Marcus received a medal made from crystalline material. It was beautiful. Worth more than everything he owned. He would probably sell it eventually and send the money home to Earth. But for now, he kept it as a reminder. Afterward, there was a reception. Important people wanted to talk to him. Diplomats and journalists and officials from a dozen different species. They all asked the same questions. How did he do it? What was his secret? Could he teach others? He answered as best he could. But the truth was, there was no secret. Humans were just different. They had been shaped by a harsh world into something unusual. Something that did not fit neatly into galactic categories. Late in the evening, Lieutenant Chung found him standing by a window. He was looking out at the stars. Millions of lights in the endless dark. The Galactic Crimes Division offered you a job, she said. Did you hear? Marcus nodded. I heard. Are you going to take it? He thought about it. The job would mean leaving his simple life as a guard. It would mean danger and pressure and responsibility. It would mean using his human instincts to find truth in a galaxy full of lies. Thought it would mean making a difference. Yes, he said finally. I think I am. Chun smiled. Good. The galaxy needs more people who see what others miss. Marcus looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, crimes were happening. Murders, conspiracies, injustices that no one was fighting against. The galaxy was vast and beautiful and full of darkness, but darkness had never scared humans. They had lived in it for millions of years. They had learned to make fire and light their own way. Marcus Cole, Former guard, future investigator, smiled to himself. There was work to do.